I have always believed that the future is not something that simply happens to you, it is something you build. When we started Alibaba, there were 18 of us in a small apartment with no money and no technology. All we had was a clear vision and the courage to begin. We didn't know exactly what the future would look like, but we knew that what we did in that moment would define our path. Every small action counts when you are building something bigger. What many people fail to realize is that waiting for the perfect moment is a trap. There is no perfect time to start. The present is where change happens, and hesitation can mean losing opportunities that will never come back. When I started, many people around me said the internet was just a passing trend, something that would have no impact in China. But I believed that the present was the right time to explore, even without absolute certainty. Acting doesn't mean you need all the answers right now. In fact, much of my success came from decisions made based on instinct and determination. It's like planting a seed. You don't see the tree immediately, but you trust that growth is happening underground. Progress isn't always visible, but every effort you put in today paves the way for what you can achieve tomorrow. In the beginning, uncertainty was something that accompanied me every day. But what I learned was that the fear of failing should never outweigh the will to try. Every step forward, even a small one, added up to something significant. Action, even if imperfect, has the power to open doors and create new opportunities. Many think that courage is the absence of fear, but in reality, it is the decision to move forward despite it. When you start seeing the present as fertile ground, you realize it is the only space where you can plant your ideas. It's not about perfection, it's about movement. What separates people who achieve their goals from those who fall behind is simple. They act. And when you act with conviction, the future has a way of aligning with your efforts. Persistence has always been the invisible force behind everything I've built. When I started Alibaba, the difficulties seemed endless. We had no money, no technology, and no influential connections. We were rejected by investors countless times, but we never let those rejections define us. Persistence is just that. Continuing to move forward when everyone around you doubts you. I remember telling my team that failures are like storms, inevitable but temporary. In the early days, people looked at us and laughed at the idea of an e-commerce platform in China. Many companies that started alongside us gave up within the first few years, but I knew stopping wasn't an option. Persistence means finding energy in moments of deepest discouragement and believing that every step forward, no matter how small, is bringing you closer to your goal. It's about holding on until the world recognizes your value. There were days when I felt completely drained, bills were piling up, and the results we hoped for weren't coming. But what kept me going was the clear vision of what we wanted to build. To persist is not about ignoring the problems, but facing them head-on, knowing that every obstacle is temporary. Seeing challenges as opportunities for learning gave us the strength to move forward when everything seemed lost. I believe persistence is like training a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger it gets. In those first years, every day brought a new difficulty. Rejections, mistakes, and even criticisms became part of our routine, but each of these moments taught us something valuable. Instead of avoiding discomfort, I chose to use it as fuel to grow. To me, persistence has always been more than a choice. It was a necessity. When I think about what sustained Alibaba over the years, I realize it wasn't just our vision, but our ability to endure. Persistence is the pillar that allows dreams to become realities, even when the path seems impossible. Moving forward without giving up doesn't guarantee it will be easy, but it is the only way to ensure it will be worth it. Failure has never been the end for me. In fact, it has been the beginning of something bigger. When I look back on Alibaba's early years, I remember all the times we faced closed doors, rejections from investors, systems that failed, and projects that didn't take off. Each mistake felt like a blow, but each one was also a lesson. I always say that failure is like a strict teacher. It's tough, but it teaches the most valuable lessons. When we were small, challenges came at us from every direction. We didn't have the resources to compete with large companies, and often our ideas seemed wrong for the market. Instead of giving up, we used every failure as a signal of what needed to be adjusted. That's how we learned to constantly improve. I've always believed that failure doesn't define you. What defines you is what you do with it. One moment that stands out for me was when we tried to attract foreign investors for the first time. After numerous meetings and presentations, all we got were no's. I remember leaving one of those meetings thinking, maybe they're right, maybe I'm wrong. But then I realized that each no was an opportunity to refine our vision. I learned to see failure as a bridge that leads to something better, as long as you're willing to cross it. Failure has never been the end for me. In fact, it has been the beginning of something bigger. When I look back on Alibaba's early years, I remember all the times we faced closed doors, rejections from investors, systems that failed, and projects that didn't take off. Each mistake felt like a blow, but each one was also a lesson. I always say that failure is like a strict teacher. It's tough, but it teaches the most valuable lessons. When we were small, challenges came at us from every direction. We didn't have the resources to compete with large companies, and often our ideas seemed wrong for the market. Instead of giving up, we used every failure as a signal of what needed to be adjusted. That's how we learned to constantly improve. I've always believed that failure doesn't define you. What defines you is what you do with it. One moment that stands out for me was when we tried to attract foreign investors for the first time. After numerous meetings and presentations, all we got were no's. I remember leaving one of those meetings thinking, maybe they're right, maybe I'm wrong. But then I realized that each no was an opportunity to refine our vision. I learned to see failure as a bridge that leads to something better, as long as you're willing to cross it. When no one believed in me, I learned to believe in myself. That was the most powerful lesson rejection taught me. I was never the smartest or most skilled person, but I always trusted my potential. When KFC opened in my city, I was the only one rejected out of 24 applicants. Harvard rejected me 10 times. And when I started Alibaba, almost every investor told us no. If I had let those rejections define me, I wouldn't be here today. Self-confidence is not something you find outside yourself. It's a flame you need to ignite, even when everything around you is dark. For me, the key was staying focused on my vision, even when the world around me seemed to doubt it. Rejection is like a mirror that reflects where you can improve, but it also tests how much you believe in yourself. I always saw every no as a reminder that true value starts within us. I realized that people reject what they don't understand. When I presented my idea of building an e-commerce platform in China, many said it was crazy. They thought the internet was a passing trend, that the market wasn't ready. But I didn't let their doubt weaken my belief. On the contrary, it gave me more strength to prove them wrong. Self-confidence was my shield in times of uncertainty. Building self-confidence is a daily process. It's not something that suddenly appears. When you face rejection, it can be tempting to give up or question your worth. But for me, every day I chose to keep going, even in the face of criticism, was a victory. It's like building a structure. Every positive action is a brick. Over time, you create something solid enough to withstand any storm. Rejection is not the end, it's just a test. Those with self-confidence understand that every no brings them closer to the right yes. When you truly believe in yourself, you don't need others to validate your worth. The power of self-confidence is what allows you to turn obstacles into opportunities, even when everyone around you doubts. Having big dreams is a powerful start, but the real challenge lies in turning them into reality. When I started Alibaba, my vision was clear: to use the internet to help small businesses reach the world. But to turn this dream into something tangible, we knew we had to start small. Every big idea begins with simple, consistent actions, and that's how we built one of the largest digital ecosystems in the world. I've always believed that no matter how big your dream is, the first step is crucial. Many people get paralyzed thinking about how far away the final goal seems. But let me share a secret. The first step is always the hardest, but it's also the most liberating. When we started, we worked in a tiny apartment with no resources and plenty of uncertainty. But we knew that if we took small steps every day, we'd get far. Turning dreams into reality requires a combination of clarity and action. For me, it was essential to break our goals into smaller, tangible milestones. If we only focused on the big picture, conquering the global market, we might never have started. So we focused on doing our best to serve small local businesses first. This approach not only gave us confidence, but also showed us that we were on the right track. Another thing I've learned along the way is that execution matters more than perfection. Many dreamers get stuck in planning, trying to create the perfect plan before taking action. But in practice, progress happens when you adjust your strategies along the way. Making mistakes is part of the process, and it's through those adjustments that you find the right formula to achieve your goals. In the end, turning big dreams into practical actions is about consistency. Small steps repeated over time create a tremendous impact. When I look at Alibaba today, I see a global organization, but I also see the sum of thousands of small decisions we made every day. Dreams are important, but it's the practical actions that truly make them possible. Leadership for me has always been about inspiring others rather than controlling them. When we built Alibaba, I knew from the start that my job wasn't to micromanage my team, but to empower them. True leadership is not about making people follow orders. It's about giving them a vision so compelling that they want to join you on the journey. I often reminded my team, if you want to catch the rabbit, don't change the rabbit, change yourself. Leadership starts with self-improvement. In those early days, I was not the best CEO in a traditional sense. In fact, one of my venture capitalists once told me to step aside because I didn't know how to lead. But I leaned into my strengths, listening, teaching, and believing in people. I found that when you inspire people by showing them trust and confidence, they go beyond expectations. They don't just work for a paycheck, they work for a purpose. Leadership is about empathy. I always believed that a leader must care deeply for their team. If you take care of your people, they will take care of the business. At Alibaba, we prioritized employees' happiness and growth, and in return, they gave their best to the company. Leadership, I've learned, is not about power. It's about building a relationship based on mutual respect and shared goals. A leader must also know how to paint a picture of the future. It's not enough to tell people where to go. You need to show them why it matters. At Alibaba, we often spoke of our dream to make small businesses competitive in the global market. This dream became the fuel that drove our team to innovate and push boundaries. A leader's vision is not just about business. It's about changing lives. Leadership through inspiration creates a ripple effect. When people are inspired, they inspire others. This creates a culture where everyone feels empowered to contribute their best ideas and efforts. Leadership isn't about the leader alone. It's about unlocking the potential in others. That is how true, lasting impact is made. Innovation is born from courage. In the early days of Alibaba, we took risks that others thought were crazy. When we introduced Alipay, most people said it would fail. The concept of online payments in China was new and untested. But I believed that trying, even at the risk of failure, was better than staying in the comfort zone. Without courage, there is no innovation. Uncertainty is a constant companion in business. When you're trying something new, there are no guarantees of success. But what I learned is that uncertainty can be your greatest advantage. It forces you to think creatively and take bold steps. At Alibaba, we embraced the unknown, often betting on ideas that had no precedent. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the willingness to move forward despite it. One of the most significant risks we took was launching the Singles Day Shopping Festival. At the time, it was an unproven concept, and many thought it would flop. But we saw potential where others saw risk. Today, it's the largest shopping event in the world. This taught me that innovation often looks like failure at first. If you're too afraid to take risks, you'll never discover what's possible. The key to innovation is creating a culture where it's safe to fail. I always told my team, don't be afraid of making mistakes, be afraid of not learning from them. At Alibaba, we encouraged experimentation, knowing that some ideas wouldn't work out. But every failure brought us closer to breakthroughs. The courage to innovate comes from accepting that failure is part of the process. Innovation is not just about technology or ideas, it's about mindset. It's about daring to imagine a different future and taking action to create it. In a world that's constantly changing, the only way to stay ahead is to embrace uncertainty and turn it into an opportunity. Courage and innovation go hand in hand, and together, they shape the future. Rejection has been one of my greatest teachers. From being turned down for jobs to facing skepticism about Alibaba's vision, rejection shaped who I am. When KFC opened in my hometown, I was the only person out of 24 applicants who didn't get hired. That stung, but instead of letting it discourage me, I let it fuel my determination. Each rejection became a reason to work harder. In Alibaba's early days, we struggled to find investors. Meeting after meeting, we were told our idea wouldn't work. I remember one particularly tough rejection where an investor laughed at the concept of e-commerce in China. Instead of feeling defeated, I left that meeting more determined than ever to prove them wrong. Rejection, I realized, is not a verdict, it's a challenge. Every no is an opportunity to grow. I've always believed that rejection forces you to improve. It pushes you to refine your ideas, strengthen your resolve, and try again. Without the rejections I faced, Alibaba wouldn't be what it is today. Those moments taught me resilience and helped me see rejection as a stepping stone rather than a roadblock. One of the most important lessons I've learned is that rejection doesn't define your worth. Your response to it does. I always tell young entrepreneurs that the world won't always believe in you, but that doesn't mean your vision isn't valid. Rejection is simply a reminder to trust yourself and your journey. The best way to handle rejection is to use it as motivation. When someone doubts you, let it ignite a fire within you to keep going. Rejection is not the end of the story, it's the beginning of a new chapter. And often, it's the chapter where you discover just how strong you really are. Change is inevitable, but thriving requires adaptability. When we started Alibaba, the internet in China was practically non-existent. It would take hours to load a single image, and most people doubted the potential of e-commerce. But I believed that change was coming, and the key to success was embracing it. The digital era doesn't wait for anyone. It rewards those who move with it. The digital age has transformed the way we live and work, offering opportunities that were unimaginable before. At Alibaba, we didn't just adapt to change, we leaned into it. We used technology to connect small businesses to the global market, empowering them to compete with giants. It was a bold move, but we knew that embracing the digital wave was the only way forward. Change often feels uncomfortable because it disrupts the familiar. Many of the businesses that failed during our rise were those that resisted change. They clung to old ways, believing that what worked yesterday would work tomorrow. But the digital era demands flexibility. Success in this time isn't about holding on to the past, it's about anticipating the future. One of the most valuable lessons I've learned is that change is an opportunity in disguise. Every disruption opens new doors for innovation. At Alibaba, we saw gaps in the market and used technology to fill them. From e-commerce to logistics to cloud computing, our willingness to embrace change allowed us to thrive. Thriving in the digital era requires more than just tools and technology. It requires a mindset of continuous learning. The world is changing faster than ever, and those who refuse to adapt will be left behind. Change isn't something to fear, it's something to harness. And in a world driven by technology, adaptability is the new superpower. In business, technical skills can only take you so far. To truly succeed, especially in competitive markets, you need emotional intelligence. At Alibaba, I realized early on that empathy and understanding are just as important as strategy and execution. Emotional intelligence allows leaders to connect with their teams, build trust, and inspire loyalty. A leader who lacks emotional intelligence may achieve short-term results, but they'll struggle to create lasting impact. I've always believed that people are the heart of any organization. When you understand their needs and emotions, you create an environment where they can thrive. At Alibaba, this meant prioritizing our employees' well-being and fostering a culture of mutual respect. One of the most critical aspects of emotional intelligence is listening. Too often, leaders feel the need to have all the answers, but I've found that listening to your team can reveal solutions you hadn't considered. When people feel heard, they become more engaged and motivated. Emotional intelligence isn't about being soft, it's about being smart with people. In competitive markets, emotional intelligence also helps you navigate challenges with resilience. There were times at Alibaba when tensions were high and pressure mounted. But by staying calm, empathetic, and focused on our long-term vision, we were able to guide the company through tough times. Emotional intelligence helps you lead with clarity, even in the face of uncertainty. Leadership is not just about results, it's about relationships. When you lead with emotional intelligence, you create a team that's united, committed, and ready to face challenges together. It's a skill that doesn't just make you a better leader, it makes you a better person. Believing in your vision is one of the hardest yet most crucial steps in achieving success. When I started Alibaba, very few people shared my confidence in e-commerce. Investors doubted it, Colleagues were skeptical, and even friends questioned my decisions. But I knew one thing: if I didn't believe in my vision, no one else would. Success begins with unwavering self-belief. In the early days, we faced rejection after rejection. Every time I presented my idea, I was met with doubt, but I learned that external validation isn't what drives progress. Your inner conviction does. A strong belief in your vision provides the energy to keep going, even when everything around you suggests giving up. If you wait for others to support you, you may never take the first step. One story that stays with me is how we convinced small businesses to join Alibaba. At the time, many were reluctant to embrace the internet. They didn't see the potential, but I did. I spent countless hours persuading them, not because I had proof of success, but because I truly believed we could create something transformational. That belief became contagious, and eventually, people began to trust our vision. Believing in your vision also means being ready to stand alone. There were moments when I felt isolated, questioning whether I was wrong. But I realized that all great ideas start with one person daring to think differently. It takes courage to persist when others doubt you, but it's that courage that turns dreams into reality. Your vision is your responsibility. No one will see it as clearly as you do, and that's okay. What matters is that you hold on to it, nurture it, and work relentlessly to make it real. When you believe in something deeply, that belief becomes the foundation for everything you build. Passion is a powerful driver, but without purpose, it can fizzle out. When we started Alibaba, our passion was fueled by a clear purpose: to help small businesses thrive in a global market. This purpose gave our work meaning and kept us focused during challenging times. Passion can ignite your journey, but purpose sustains it over the long term. I've always believed that passion must be guided by a greater goal. At Alibaba, our mission wasn't just about creating a successful company, it was about empowering others. When you work with purpose, every task feels meaningful, and even setbacks become part of a larger picture. Purpose transforms passion into impact. One example of this was how we prioritized customers and employees over profits. I often said, customers first, employees second, shareholders third. This philosophy wasn't popular with investors, but it reflected our purpose. We wanted to create a company that genuinely cared about people, and that care became the foundation of our success. Passion with purpose also helps you inspire others. When people see that your work is driven by more than personal gain, they want to be part of your journey. At Alibaba, our purpose attracted talented individuals who shared our vision. Together, we created something far greater than any of us could have achieved alone. In the end, passion without purpose is like a fire that burns brightly but quickly fades. Purpose is what keeps the flame alive, guiding you through challenges and inspiring those around you. When your work has meaning, its impact goes far beyond yourself. Success is rarely immediate. It's a journey that requires patience and faith in the process. When we started Alibaba, progress was slow and challenges were constant. There were times when it felt like we were going nowhere, but I learned that trusting the process is key to long-term success. Every step forward, no matter how small, is progress. Patience doesn't mean inaction. It means consistent effort over time. Building Alibaba took years of hard work, countless mistakes, and endless adjustments. Trusting the process meant understanding that results wouldn't come overnight, but knowing that each day of effort brought us closer to our goals. Success is a marathon, not a sprint. One of the hardest parts of trusting the process is dealing with uncertainty. There were moments when we weren't sure if our ideas would work. But instead of letting doubt take over, we focused on what we could control: our commitment, our actions, and our belief in the vision. Moving forward, even in the face of doubt, is what kept us going. I've always thought of success as a seed you plant. You water it, nurture it, and protect it even when you don't see immediate growth. Trusting the process is like tending to that seed, knowing that with time and care, it will grow into something extraordinary. It's about having faith in the work you're doing, even when results take time to show. Moving forward doesn't mean rushing. It means staying focused and resilient. Each step, no matter how small, builds momentum. Trust the process, and you'll find that the journey itself teaches you everything you need to succeed. Vision is one of the most powerful tools a leader can have. When I started Alibaba, the opportunities we saw weren't obvious to others. Many people thought e-commerce in China was a ridiculous idea. But having a clear vision allowed me to see what others couldn't, the potential to create something that would transform the way people do business. A strong vision doesn't just look at what exists, it imagines what could be. I've always believed that the best opportunities are hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to uncover them. At Alibaba, we used our vision to identify gaps in the market and turn them into possibilities. Vision isn't about predicting the future, it's about shaping it. One of the ways we applied this was by focusing on small businesses. While others were chasing big corporations, we saw the untapped potential of small entrepreneurs. This vision led us to build tools and platforms that empowered them to compete globally. Seeing invisible opportunities requires looking beyond the obvious and believing in what others dismiss. Vision also provides direction when times get tough. During the early years, when we faced criticism and rejection, our vision kept us grounded. It reminded us why we started and what we were working toward. A clear vision acts like a compass, guiding you through challenges and helping you stay focused on the bigger picture. When you cultivate a strong vision, you unlock the ability to create change. Opportunities that once seemed invisible become clear, and you gain the confidence to act on them. Vision isn't just about seeing the future, it's about creating it. Adaptation is essential in a world that's always changing. At Alibaba, we learned early on that the ability to adjust quickly was the difference between success and failure. The business environment is unpredictable, and those who refuse to adapt get left behind. Growth comes from being flexible and open to new ideas. One of the biggest lessons we learned was to embrace change instead of resisting it. Whether it was shifting our strategies to meet customer needs or adopting new technologies, adaptation became part of our culture. This willingness to change allowed us to stay ahead, even in the face of intense competition. Adaptation is not just about reacting to change, it's about anticipating it. At Alibaba, we constantly asked ourselves, what's next? By staying curious and proactive, we identified trends before they became mainstream. This forward-thinking approach helped us seize opportunities that others missed. The process of adaptation also involves learning from mistakes. Not every decision we made was perfect, but each one taught us something valuable. Instead of fearing failure, we used it as a tool to refine our approach. Growth comes from being willing to learn, unlearn, and relearn as the world evolves. Constant adaptation is the key to long-term success. It allows you to remain relevant, resilient, and ready for whatever comes next. In a world that never stands still, the ability to adapt is not just an advantage, it's a necessity. Barriers are part of every journey, but I've always seen them as opportunities in disguise. When we started Alibaba, the obstacles seemed endless. Lack of funding, skepticism from investors, and the challenge of introducing e-commerce in a market unfamiliar with the internet. Yet instead of seeing these as reasons to stop, I viewed them as stepping stones towards something extraordinary. Each barrier taught us something valuable. Whether it was refining our strategy after rejection or finding creative solutions to problems we didn't anticipate, challenges pushed us to grow. I often reminded my team that the greatest breakthroughs happen when you're willing to push through the hardest moments. Obstacles are not meant to stop you. They're meant to prepare you for the next level. One example was when we had to build our logistics network from scratch. It was a monumental task, but we knew that overcoming this barrier was essential to our success. By tackling it head-on, we created a system that not only solved our immediate problem, but also became a competitive advantage. Facing barriers directly often leads to innovation and progress. Overcoming barriers also requires resilience. There were times when it felt like the odds were stacked against us. But instead of focusing on the difficulties, we focused on our vision. This mindset turned even the most daunting obstacles into manageable challenges. Resilience is what transforms barriers into opportunities for growth. Building an extraordinary future doesn't mean avoiding barriers, it means embracing them. Every obstacle is a chance to learn, improve, and move closer to your goals. The path to greatness is rarely smooth, but it's the bumps along the way that shape you into someone capable of achieving extraordinary things. Hard work is important, but I've always believed that working smart makes the real difference. When we started Alibaba, we worked long hours, often late into the night, but we quickly realized that effort alone wasn't enough. Success required a balance of hard work and strategic thinking. It's not just about how much you do, it's about doing the right things. One of the smartest moves we made was prioritizing small businesses. While others focused on big corporations, we identified an underserved market and tailored our solutions to their needs. This strategic focus allowed us to grow quickly and differentiate ourselves. Working smart means knowing where to direct your energy for maximum impact. Efficiency is another key part of working smart. At Alibaba, we use technology to automate repetitive tasks, freeing up time for innovation. Whether it was streamlining our logistics or improving our customer service systems, smart decisions helped us scale without burning out. Technology is a powerful tool for amplifying effort. Working smart also means being willing to adapt. In the fast-changing world of e-commerce, what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. By staying flexible and open to new ideas, we stayed ahead of the curve. Strategic thinking is about anticipating change and positioning yourself to take advantage of it. Ultimately, working smart is about balance. Hard work lays the foundation, but strategy builds the structure. Together, they create a path to sustainable success. When you combine effort with intelligent decisions, the results speak for themselves. Leadership is not about being the strongest or the smartest person in the room. It's about empowering those around you. From the beginning, I believed that the success of Alibaba would depend on the strength of our team. My role as a leader was to inspire and enable them to reach their full potential. Empowerment is the hallmark of great leadership. At Alibaba, we created a culture where everyone felt valued and capable of making a difference. Instead of dictating every decision, we trusted our team to take ownership of their work. This trust fostered creativity and innovation, allowing us to grow faster than we ever imagined. Empowering others is not about relinquishing control. It's about building a foundation of trust and collaboration. One way I empowered my team was by sharing a clear vision. People need to know where they're going and why it matters. At Alibaba, our mission to help small businesses inspired everyone to give their best. A shared purpose unites a team and drives them to achieve more than they thought possible. Empowerment also means providing the tools and resources people need to succeed. Whether it was investing in training or creating platforms for growth, we ensured our team had what they needed to excel. Leaders who invest in their people are rewarded with loyalty and high performance. Great leaders don't just create success for themselves, they create success for others. Empowerment creates a ripple effect, inspiring individuals to achieve their best and pass that inspiration on. When you empower people, you don't just lead them, you transform them. Resilience has been the cornerstone of everything I've achieved. When I started Alibaba, adversity was a constant companion. We faced rejection, criticism, and seemingly insurmountable challenges. But I've always believed that resilience is what separates those who succeed from those who give up. It's the ability to keep going, no matter what. Every setback we faced taught us to adapt and grow. Whether it was a failed project or a missed opportunity, we used every experience to become stronger. Resilience isn't just about surviving tough times, it's about using them as stepping stones to something greater. Adversity, when embraced, becomes a powerful teacher. One of the most challenging moments for Alibaba was during the SARS outbreak in 2003. Despite the crisis, our team came together, working remotely to keep the company running. It was a testament to the power of resilience. Instead of seeing the situation as a setback, we saw it as an opportunity to prove our strength and adaptability. Resilience also means staying focused on your long-term vision. There were times when short-term struggles made it tempting to change course, but we stayed true to our goals. That consistency paid off, showing us that perseverance is the key to overcoming any challenge. Adversity is inevitable, but resilience is a choice. It's the decision to rise after every fall and to find opportunity in every obstacle. When you cultivate resilience, you don't just survive, you thrive no matter what life throws your way. The world of business is constantly evolving, and I've always believed that the best way to make an impact is to lead by example. At Alibaba, we didn't just aim to succeed, we aimed to change how business was done. From empowering small businesses to embracing sustainability, we focused on creating value for everyone involved. Leadership isn't about telling others what to do, it's about showing them what's possible. I often told my team that if we wanted to see change in the world, we had to start with ourselves. Whether it was through our commitment to customers or our dedication to innovation, we made sure our actions aligned with our vision. Being the change also means taking responsibility. At Alibaba, we saw ourselves as more than a business. We were part of a global community. This mindset pushed us to think beyond profits and consider how we could contribute to society. Businesses have the power to drive meaningful change, and it starts with leadership. One of the most fulfilling aspects of this approach was seeing how our work inspired others. When you set a positive example, you create a ripple effect. Customers, partners, and even competitors began adopting practices that aligned with our values. Change doesn't happen overnight, but it starts with a single step in the right direction. To be the change, you must act with intention and integrity. Every decision you make shapes the future. The business world needs leaders who are willing to take the first step, not just for themselves, but for the benefit of all.
Now it's your turn to take the reins of your destiny. Everything Jack Ma shared is a testament to the power of belief, resilience, and action. Are you ready to turn your obstacles into opportunities? The wisdom in this presentation isn't just inspiring, it's actionable. It's your blueprint to start today, to persist through challenges, and to envision a future beyond limitations. And don't stop here. Our next video, Why Failure is the Best Thing That Can Happen to You, Jack Ma's Advice, dives deeper into the strategies for building lasting success. Watch it to continue your journey of transformation and empowerment. Let's build the extraordinary future you deserve.